Open your phone. Go to your banking app. Look at the number in your savings account. Feel that? That little flicker of security, maybe a little pride? Now, I want you to ask yourself a question that most financial advisors are too afraid to ask you. If I never deposit another penny into this account, will this money ever turn me into a millionaire? The answer, for 99% of you, is no. We have been sold a story. It's a comfortable story, a virtuous story. It goes like this: work hard, be disciplined, pack your lunch, skip the latte, save 10% of everything you make, invest it in the SP 500, and in 40 years, you'll be rich. But there is a crack in this story, a fatal flaw. And to understand it, we need to talk about a woman I'll call Jane. Chapter 1, The Story of Jane. Jane lives in Columbus, Ohio. She's 47 years old. She's been a project manager at a mid-sized marketing firm for the last 18 years. Jane does everything right. She gets to work by 8:15 a.m., 15 minutes early. She drinks coffee from the break room, never Starbucks. She packs a tuna sandwich and an apple for lunch every single day. Her car is a 2012 Honda Civic with 140,000 miles on it. It has a dent in the passenger door from a shopping cart incident 5 years ago. She hasn't fixed it because, in her words, it still runs. Jane's philosophy was drilled into her by her parents, who lived through the recession of the 80s. Pay yourself first, they said. So she does. Every month, $800 comes out of her paycheck and goes straight into her 401k and her high-yield savings account. For 18 years, rain or shine, she has paid herself first. Last year, Jane did the math. Her total savings, including her 401k and the equity in her modest two-bedroom home, is roughly $340,000. For a moment, she felt proud. Then she opened Zillow. She looked at the houses in the nice part of town, the ones with the big yards where her daughter's friend lives. The entry price? $550,000. She looked at retirement calculators, assuming the market doesn't crash, assuming she stays healthy, assuming she works until she's 70, she might have enough to live modestly, not richly, modestly. Jane felt a pit in her stomach. She realized she had spent 18 years saying no to everything, the vacations, the dinners out, the new clothes, so she could arrive at a destination that looked suspiciously like exactly where she started. Jane is not poor, but she is trapped. She traded her present freedom for a future that is not guaranteed. She is the perfect saver, and the perfect saver, in this economy, is the new peasant. Chapter 2, The Math Problem. Jane's story is not one of failure. It is a story of mathematical misalignment. Let's look at the numbers she was working with. If Jane earns, let's say, $70,000 a year after taxes, that's a solid, respectable income. She saves $800 a month. That's nearly $10,000 a year. Exceptional discipline. But here is the equation that breaks the saver's heart. Her capital grows linearly, but her goals grow exponentially. Jane is saving in US dollars, and the US dollar, on average, loses about 2% to 3% of its purchasing power every single year due to inflation. That means the $340,000 she has today will only buy what $200,000 buys in today's money by the time she's 70. To combat that, she invests in the stock market, hoping for that 7% or 8% return. But let's be real, a 7% return on $340,000 is about $23,000 a year. That's a nice bonus. That's not wealth. That's a used car. The core problem is this: saving is subtractive. Wealth is multiplicative. When you save, you are taking a chunk of your income and subtracting it from your spending. It is a 1-to-1 ratio. You worked 40 hours. You saved $800. You worked 80 hours. You saved $1,600. There is a ceiling. You cannot work 168 hours a week. There is a physical limit to how much time you have. The wealthy understand something that Jane was never taught. You must convert your labor into assets that work without you. We call this unearned income. It's a terrible name, it makes it sound like cheating. But in reality, it's simply delegated income. You delegate the work to a machine, a system, a property, or an employee. Jane's income is linear. She works, the money stops. Rich people's income is asymptotic. They set up systems, and the money continues, often accelerating. Chapter 3: The Wealth Pyramid. So, if saving won't make you rich, what will? You need to climb the wealth pyramid. There are 3 distinct layers. Level 1, the saver, Jane's level. This is the foundation. It is necessary, but it is not the destination. Savers trade time for money and store the excess. The problem is, storage is vulnerable. Theft, inflation, emergency medical bills, any external shock can wipe the storage clean. If you are only a saver, you are only one disaster away from zero. Level 2, the owner, the middle-class millionaire. This is where Jane needs to go. Owners buy things that generate cash flow regardless of their labor. The real estate owner buys a duplex, lives in one unit, rents the other. The tenant pays the mortgage. After 2 years, she buys another. Now she has 2 assets paying down debt for her. The intellectual property owner writes a guide on project management, her actual job, sells it online for $20. She sells it once a day for a year. That's $7,300 for work she did once. The business owner starts a small side hustle, pressure washing driveways on weekends. Eventually, she hires a kid from the local college to run the machine. She takes a cut. She is no longer washing. She is managing. Notice the shift. Jane stops selling her time and starts selling her leverage. Level 3, the investor, the top 1%. This is the final stage. At this level, you no longer need to own the business or the property directly. You own the paper that represents the business. You own stocks. You own bonds. You are the silent partner. You are betting on the growth of the economy itself. Jane's 401k puts her in the stock market, but it doesn't make her an investor in control. She buys index funds, which is fine, but it's passive. The wealthy buy control. They buy enough shares to influence the board, or they buy real estate they can improve. The jump from level 1 to level 2 is the hardest jump in finance. It requires risk, it requires capital, and most importantly, it requires a mindset shift from scarcity to abundance. Jane suffers from what psychologists call the buckets and drips mentality. She sees money as a finite resource to be hoarded in a bucket. Every time she spends, a drip leaves the bucket. Every time she saves, a drip goes in. Her goal is to fill the bucket before she dies. The wealthy see money as a seed. A seed is not for hoarding. If you hoard a seed, it rots. A seed is for planting. You plant it in the ground, risk. You water it, work. And it grows into a plant that produces hundreds of seeds. Jane sees buying a rental property as spending $50,000. It feels like a massive drip out of the bucket. It terrifies her. The wealthy see that $50,000 as planting 50,000 seeds. In 5 years, those seeds might have produced 200,000 new seeds. This is why the phrase, working hard and saving money, is dangerous. It implies that the money itself is the goal. It isn't. The freedom the money buys is the goal. If Jane saves $1 million by the time she's 70, what has she bought? The freedom to stop working when she's too tired to enjoy it. If Jane buys a duplex at 47, what has she bought? The freedom to have someone else pay her mortgage today. The freedom to quit her job at 55 because the rental income covers her bills. One path delays life. The other path expands life. So, where does that leave you? And where does it leave Jane? If you are listening to this, and you see yourself in Jane's story, disciplined, hardworking, but feeling like you're on a treadmill that's slowly tilting upward, you don't need to stop saving, but you need to stop only saving. Here is your 3-step exit strategy. Step 1, the stupid savings cap. Decide how much money you need in the bank to feel safe. For most people, that's 3 to 6 months of expenses. Let's call that $25,000. Once you hit that cap, stop hoarding cash. Cash beyond this point is not savings. It is dry powder. It is fuel for the next step. Step 2, the micro-asset purchase. You don't need $50,000 to buy a duplex to start. You need $500 to buy a book on real estate. You need $100 to buy a domain name for a website. You need a Saturday to start a tiny service business. Take 10% of your income and instead of putting it in the savings account, put it in a risk account. This money is for planting seeds. You will lose some. That is the tuition for learning how to be an owner. Step 3. The income ladder. Your goal is to build one small asset that generates $100 a month passively. That's it. A digital product. A small investment in a dividend stock. A piece of equipment you rent out. Once you have $100, reinvest it to get to $200, then $500. When your passive income covers your grocery bill, you have breathing room. When it covers your mortgage, you have freedom. Jane is still in Columbus. She's still driving the Civic. But last I heard, she stopped packing tuna every day. She took the money she would have saved on lunches for a year and used it as a down payment on a small, run-down duplex in a transitioning neighborhood. She's terrified. She's excited. She's no longer just a saver. She is a planter. Working hard fills the bucket, but only owning the field makes you rich. Thanks for listening. If this video shifts your perspective even a little, hit like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm plant some seeds. 2.